Mayor Margarina.
Here.
Mayor Edge.
Here.
Mike's.
Councilmember West called me. He had a conflict that he had to give priority to because it involves his work. He called me the other day. Okay, item number 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Did anybody want to make any comments on items that don't come up on our regular agenda tonight? No speaker cards. Okay, number 3, consent items. Anybody want to pull anything?
Move to approve.
Second?
Councilmember West.
Oh, hold on.
Did you guys look at the map for the street closures?
Yeah, the one for...
It gave me a little pause. I mean, we're closing the whole town. Are we?
It's only a 10 or 15 minutes stretch.
Okay, just for the start, and then they're gone.
They run,
Okay.
and then you pull in the barricades and stuff.
That was what I asked on that one, too.
Yeah.
So it's like a rolling closure?
They're rolling closure.
Got it. No sweat. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So we'll go back to the...
And this year on the 10K, they wanted to bring them down Main Street and then go back and forth just to expose the town
Oh, fun.
for the purpose for the 10K.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm sorry, who was the motion made by? Okay, Councilmember West is absent. Councilmember Bach.
Yes.
Councilmember Lund.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Margarina.
Aye.
Mayor Edge.
Yes.
4 members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker presence 4-0.
Okay. Presentations, informational items, and reports. The first one is recognition for Yesenia Rios, Youth Commissioner. Do we have anything? Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, this is the recognition for Yesenia Rios, who was our first commissioner of our first commission chairperson of our youth commission, and this is what was submitted to recommend her for this honor. Having lived in San Juan Bautista her entire life, Yesenia was eager to join the San Juan Youth Commission as she saw an opportunity to directly impact youth and make a difference in the lives of other kids in San Juan. Yesenia dived right in and offered to chair the commission without hesitation. A natural leader and advocate for collaborative decision-making, Yesenia had no difficulty in growing into her role as chair, giving this new commission the leadership and guidance needed as they found their way in learning to develop an action plan and understand meeting procedures. Her thoughtfulness with younger and quieter commissioners is remarkable, and she ensured that every voice was heard. With a heightened level of collaboration, the commission developed 2 youth-focused events this year, an environmental awareness event held in April, and a soccer workshop held in early August, and they have actively participated in city holiday parade events. A natural leader and enthusiastic advocate for youth making change, Yesenia has truly led the way for others to follow. We wish her much success in college. Is Yesenia here?
She
Oh,
is.
you're right there. Okay. We have a certificate for you. If you'd like to come up and get it.
Thank you.
And congratulations. Where are you going to school?
San Diego State.
San Diego. Good. Good.
Congratulations, and thank you.
I just say does it here?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank the council for starting this thing, or the strategic planning committee, everybody, and letting us, giving us the money to do, funding us to do these events, and also just allowing me to get to know, but this allowed me to get to know my community better, and it was a great opportunity, so thank you for this opportunity. And I hope a lot of other new commissioners that come experience and do the same, develop the same way I did, and loving their community and figuring out where they
Good, thank you. Okay, the next, where's my agenda? Next is a proclamation honoring Jacob's Heart Children's Cancer Support Services. Is there anybody here for this? It's kind of a long resolution. Would you like to maybe summarize just what's going on and
Sure.
tell us a little bit about it?
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jacob's Heart, but it's a full-service cancer support system for children. Your mission is to help the families in any way possible. If it's transportation, if it's gas cards, if it's just support, or even groceries. Our mission is to help these families be as present as possible so that they can concentrate what is important and is helping their children fight this disease. And we're here to thank to the mayor and the city council for making September Children's Cancer Awareness Month. And this proclamation is a way of honoring Jacob's Heart for the advocating of this mission that we have. And I also wanted to extend an invitation to our annual celebration called Kid Rages, which is a Sunday of September the 25th. We're going to have food and games and activities for the kids, and it's going to be held in the Watsonville Plaza. And it's from 11 to 5.
Cool.
I hope you guys all can come out and enjoy the festivities and celebrate this great time right now.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've signed the proclamation, so
Thank you very much.
there you are. Thank you, thanks for coming. Okay, we have a presentation by Green Power by the Romero Institute, Anthony DeLuca. Mr. DeLuca is not here? Okay, we'll skip past that, I guess. If he shows up later, we can go back to it. Dee Dee, our librarian, is going to make a report on the summer enrichment program.
Okay, Mayor and City Council. Mayor Sean Caron was busy with other issues. I don't know, near and dear to her heart. So Heather Leader, who lives in Oregon now, took over the summer programs and did a couple of weeks with her dad, Joey Canepa and Canyon Sayers. June 27 was the first Discovery Camp, and Joey shared her knowledge of native plants at the soccer field where the riparian habitat meanders on the side of the creek. Some people call it a ditch.
Riparian habitat sounds a lot better.
Yes, yes. Actually, she's got funding from Wildlife and another
PG&E
organization. They're going to make it.
Yeah.
So they took leaf samples and twig sprigs and herb cuttings and never took more than 2 and pressed them into a notebook and labeled them and dated them to create the first journal that was based, a baseline assessment. Because hopefully they'll come back, because they do need the kids to help plant some native plants. And then they walked to the library every day where they would look at different gardens and see, they probably looked at Tony's and saw what a beautiful California native thing he's got going on there.
It's known as rock.
Oh, that's the okay. Wednesday they went to Indian Canyon with Canyon Sayers to explore the native Ohlone tribe place. And then the children learned native songs and made masks and did some sand paintings. And the kids really enjoyed the American games, the Native American games. They're introduced to tools and skills that Russ, Heather's father, were teaching them. They had an obstacle course. And then let's just go to the second camp. It was July 5, and that was the most popular one. It was about mechanics and electricity. So the kids, we had 29 students sign up. Bob Quaid was really helpful. He cut and made catapults. And so the kids got to hammer and paint and put those together. That was fun. And they also made Morse code senders. Plus the history of how the Morse code was, I think Hedy Lamarr did it in World War II. I mean, who knew? Then Legos came into play. They did levers and pulleys. And so some of the kids made race cars, and they raced each other in the river. I'm sorry, more adults didn't show up to see their enthusiasm. It was really fun. And then the kids put this little, I don't know, poster together, whatever they call it. And it's to say thank you, and it was their favorite. And they picked out their favorite.
Great.
Thanks.
Oh, nice.
And I wanted to give you guys a little bit more information because we just did another workshop, and it was called the Book Builders Workshop, Build a Book Workshop. This was a pilot program. So we had like 9 kids and or students and 4 volunteers. Bernie McGee put it on, and the children got to learn about photography, writing skills, plus some art. And that's it, unless you have questions.
Is this the first year you've had the camp? It isn't, is
No,
it?
no.
How many years now?
Is it 2 or 3? Okay, your 3rd year.
Third year.
Summer Discovery Camp.
Yeah. I hope you keep it up. I think it's a really great thing because, San Juan's kind of small. We don't get a lot of funding from county agencies to do this kind of thing, so.
I agree, and I mean, that's really good to hear because parents come in. We literally had parents from Aromas, Gilroy, and Hollister. They're looking for stuff to do. There's nothing else. And so I was really excited that Heather came from Oregon and
Roger?
this other program. I hope it's off the ground a little bit more, just, kind of to test the waters. So hopefully we can do something more with that next year too.
How many kids cycled through? About how many kids did we?
Well, we do have to put a cap on it. So the second camp that was the fullest was 29 kids.
Cool.
I believe there was, I want to say, we didn't get the full group for the first. I don't know. We got too many caps.
10, 20?
I want to say like 12 to 15
Okay.
for the first one.
Great.
The second one, we only took 9 kids in, and that was the plan, was to keep it small so we could do it right.
Oh, I think it's great. Thank you so much.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Monthly financial statements and treasurer's report. Chuck's not here?
He was here.
He was here, he said that he would
come back.
He had to run home.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to skip over that then?
We have the fire. Looks like we've got somebody from the fire department.
Are you saying take
Yeah,
that
I mean,
next?
you could pop down to that one if you're.
Okay, let's do that. Fire chief's report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff. My name is Battalion Chief Kenny Malone of Hallsville Fire Department. You might know Lund and maybe a few of you. But anyways, Chief Martindale Campo was unable to attend tonight because we were busy with code enforcement interviews. So I'm here to deliver his chief report. First page here, we have, as you've seen before, it's just a breakdown of the calls. From July 14th to August 14th, we ran 290 calls. That's a combination of all 4 stations. District 4 here, we had a total of 33 calls in a month. I did put some notes down, some progress on Station 3. From what I know, they're on target and on track. I think they're doing some soil sampling now, and the reconfiguring of the apparatus bay is going to be moved because there's some really nice trees on that property, and they're old trees, and they're not going to take them down, which I agree. So they're going to go ahead and move the whole apparatus bay on the other side of the building, and so that's where that's at. And I think Adam from the county's on it. I think he gave a report to the fire advisory committee, and then we had some information. What we're looking into is going maybe a fire district. So, with the county and city, might be that time to look that way, LAFCO, and see what we can do. And so we're looking into figuring out what we have to do, the first step in going fire district, and see if that is the best way to go. That's my opinion. I'm not sure, but that's what we're doing. I'm in charge of planning, so it's another project I got to look into, and see if that's the way we want to go. And it involves, I believe, everybody putting in, the cities, the county putting in, and then there's probably some type of tax that's going to go along with that. And so I'm going to start that project. Today we were supposed to receive the new water tender. Looks like it's going to be tomorrow or the next day. Sitting in Modesto right now. We kind of wanted to house a water tender out here, in San Juan, due to the building height and the bays. We're not, even the old one is not going to fit down here. So it looks like we're going to, go ahead and keep the new water tender at Station 2, and then possibly move the older water tender at Station 3 when that's built. So they'll be centrally located in the county, in the city, and they can go either way, down south, north, but not to say in the future, if the apparatus bays here could be, reconfigured to house a water tender, the chief doesn't have a problem with having a water tender down here, to subsidize the older water system that you have here in San Juan, like we do in Hollister. So it might be something we can look into down the road.
Yeah, we've actually been talking about redoing the doors on the bay. Just making
yes,
one.
That's right. So if we do them, maybe we can do them one shot and make it to the specs of the older water tender. We could bring it down there and house it, which would be perfect. Apparatus report, it still kind of remains the same, although P53 was out of service, and it looks like we'll be picking that up tomorrow in Modesto. So that's and what they found out was the pump failed on it, the impeller shaft. It wasn't the PTO drive shaft, it was the actual pump that failed on it. It's a brand new piece of equipment. So it looks like we're going to be taking engine 11 for its yearly service down to Modesto and picking up Patrol 53. So we'll have that back in the county. Engine 17 remains out of service. Rescue 64 remains out of service. And I don't know enough about them to report on them. That's Battalion Chief Dover kind of runs that department.
Did 53 come back?
Tomorrow we're going to get it back. P53?
No, not the P53, but the wildland rig?
Yes, engine 32 is back in service
32?
At Station 2, along with the water tender and everything else. So that's back.
Because we're at the height of...
Oh, no, yeah, we had no wildland equipment there. And at the height of the wildland season, we need the water and we need the rigs to get where we want to go. Strength management, biggest thing there is, of course, the SAFER grant. You guys heard over and over with the SAFER grant. We're still looking for, the award. There's some way we kind of know, we think we got it, however that little email happened. But it's just, every Friday they release so many, across the United States, so many cities that get these SAFER grants, and we just haven't been in there yet. So we're hoping to hear some good news soon.
Okay.
And of course, today we had code enforcement officer interviews all day today. And that's what the chief was doing along with the interview panel. And that's it. That concludes the chief's report. If there's any questions.
I do. The tender not being accommodated by our station.
Right.
That's the sort of thing that would be helpful, because obviously we don't know enough about it to make an assessment, but those are the sorts of things that would help us to have a survey done so that we can anticipate those needs. We've been budgeting for a new fire truck.
Yeah.
But that's a number of years down the line. But are we obsolete in our physical plant for anything that we're going to buy down the road? And so that we rely on you guys to help us with that.
Exactly. And if we're going to do, garage door, new apparatus bay doors.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't fit on that one. On that.
And I'm just taking, Battalion Chief Dover's word for it. He did the measurements. I think this one here, it's the height. Because the older water tender, it's pretty tall.
Yeah.
And, you do need some wiggle room, on each side. And,
Sure.
we don't want to let the air out of the tires every time we back it in, to fit it in there. So
We used to put the limo over here.
I know. We did put the limo in here today, and it was tight, but, we'll look at it, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna look at a water tender here and a new engine, of course, we're gonna have to spec out the new engine to see if it's gonna fit in the bays.
Yeah.
So
those
if we
are
do
just
that,
those
we might as
things
well look
that.
at the water tender, and then if we make any improvements to the building, we do it all in one shot.
But those are those long-range plans that we need you guys to help us with, because it's not in our wheelhouse
Yeah,
at
we
all.
don't want to order a new engine and have not fit.
Yeah.
And, that's excellent. That's a good idea, and
Feedback.
we'll look at it. I wasn't sure on the plan on your apparatus and how many years and stuff.
Oh, it's 15 years out.
But, the water tender definitely would be a great idea down here, even though we end at 101 there, and that's fine. But, we have the hills up here and of course, a structure fire, and if we have, earthquake or something, the water system's gonna fail, and we'll have a water tender out here on this part of the county to handle that,
Thank you.
It's glad, that kind of looking into this fire district, but it's something we're really going to have to advocate now about and really get the public educated. So if that's one of your new jobs another one piled onto your desk?
Which one?
The looking into the fire district.
Yes.
So, we're really going to need to advocate for that and really get the public educated in the direction that we're going.
There is a way to go about it,
And
I know.
the
and we're just
beneficials.
learning about it, so.
Yeah.
And believe me, when we kind of figure out what direction we're gonna go, and we know all the rules and LAFCO and all this stuff, we'll have meetings about it.
Because if we're going to try and get it on 2018, that's a lot of work.
We gotta start
A lot of
now.
work.
Yeah.
Definitely start now. So that's one thing I'm working on with the chief. And, I've even looked up some consultants that have brought cities and counties into fire districts, and get some direction, to see what's the best way to go about it.
It just would keep everything on a nice level playing field and,
Yeah.
where
Definitely.
everybody's paying the even amount, no matter what their city, county, where they live,
Yeah, and we don't have to,
Fair share.
fair share. It's a good
Exactly.
way, put it on that. But
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
it's like
You too. Okay. Chuck, we skipped over the monthly financial statements, so we can go to that now.
I went home for dinner.
didn't bring nothing back.
But that Kentucky Fried Chicken was good. Good evening, City Council, Mayor, staff members. Once again, my name is Chuck Geiger. I'm the City Treasurer. There's just a few comments tonight to make. You have it in your packet, the Treasurer's report. Once again, the budget's been set for the next calendar, the next year of our city. We'll be closing, the books are closing, and we'll probably have an auditing occur about the next 2 months. It should check out fine, everything looks good. But to let you know, we have to do the official audit on the year of the books. And just a couple other comments. The enterprise fund seems to be actually, right now, it's operating almost like a break even, which is really good. Where we've been losing money, we're actually getting back up. I think people are still conserving. I noticed the money coming in terms of putting water on their grass. I think people are maybe using a little bit more water, but not a whole lot. So I think we're still in that, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're still somewhere around, what was it, we wanted to cut down about maybe 22% or so.
20.
We're about 20% now, which it was like 25 when they implemented. So it's a good thing, and it's good to see that our enterprise fund is actually kind of leveled off. The budget the council passed looks good. Roger's put some changes into it that you passed, and there's been a few new expenses. As most of you know, we're working on getting some new wells in the city, so that's going forward. And if you look in the checks that were written, the warrants, it's noted in there. I just want to talk about the warrants for a moment. If you noticed, this is in your packet too also, that there's about, if you notice, it says $155,000 roughly for the month. About $18,000 will come back to us. These are fees that will return to us by the projects that are going on. So just to give you that piece to it. This is kind of a tough month in terms of checks being written by the city, because it's kind of like all of a sudden you got to pay your car insurance, your home mortgage, your house insurance. All things come at once, and that's what you see here. There's some big checks that were written. Parsac, I mean, look at that. That's a big number, right?
Yeah. That's
a lot of money. You talk about insurance for liability, for the city. You have to pay that. And you got Racewell in there. You've got some big checks that were written that are only due. Like if you look at the ones, there's a couple of them that are going out to the San Bernardino County Integrated Waste Management and to the Water District. Those are fees that have to be paid because of our association membership with them. So those are some pretty big numbers there. But I expect it to drop back down to 100,000 as usual next month. But that's just normal expenditures that happen this time of the year. If you get a chance, take a look at this packet. I believe it's in your group. It's like 19 pages. And that shows you the accounting in different departments. It shows you how we're either over budget or under budget. And it's just something to take a look at. Most of the stuff balances out over the year. But right now we see that we're kind of like some of our tax revenue is down because we haven't received that money yet. But I'm pretty sure it'll balance out with time. But if you get a chance, you might want to just skim through it and see, just look at some of the sheets. I was just checking on it, looking at it, like one that kind of jumped out at me is business licenses seems to be down. But I'm not sure, Roger, is that because it's this time of the year that they come around September, they also have to reapply and pay for their membership?
And we just send a lot of them out, and so the revenues are just coming in.
Okay. So, that's going to go back up. But overall, like I said, everything looks good. I don't see any real big issues. I'd let them go back to the checks. Did you, the council members, have any questions on the checks? Yes. Which one?
How come I didn't get invited to the party at Daisy's? Check for $307.
That was an error in last year. The business license was over projected, and he paid $600, and it should have been like $200. And so at the time we figured it out, it was an overpayment of $307. And so I met with John and we refunded it back.
I just thought Chuck had a big party in
Hey,
Columbus.
you know, I just realized that, and I didn't get invited either.
It was great.
It seems like the $300
Just a good
the
one.
$300 and $400 don't jump out at me. It's the $5,000 and $10,000 numbers that kind of look at and I go, whoa, where did that come from? Also, if you notice, there's some real, there's a couple large checks were paid for training, such as training of some of the staff, especially in our front half of our office, staff training. That has to be done, and hopefully that's going to drop off next month because the person now, the new, we have someone new in the front now, and she's learning how to do it and had to be trained how to do it, and that was a little expensive, but that's the cost of training someone to make sure that we get the water bills out on time and all that other stuff, right? Okay, any other questions? Yes.
There were 2 checks for state compensation insurance fund, each over $3,000, and they were 2 weeks apart. Is that typical? Are we paying about $6,000 a month on that?
Or were we 2 weeks early or 2 weeks late?
Roger, I'll throw that back at you. I
One
thought it
was
last month.
One was July 14th, and the other was July 28th.
It was probably a carryover where we missed vacation to pay it the previous month, and so that is a normal rule. It runs around about, I think they have us on a monthly installment, and it runs about $36,000 a year.
Okay.
And every now and then that happens with Bracewell. We've seen that. We've seen it with our legal counsel, where all of a sudden the bill got in, but we didn't get it paid, and it shows up on the next warrants.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And in Parsac, is that always 32, is that for a year or is it
That's
6
for a
months?
year.
That's for a year?
Yeah, that's liability protection.
They don't take monthly payments or quarterly or anything like that?
Roger, that's a good question. They don't.
No, but they do, it's a joint powers agreement, with agencies, and we do get grants and reimbursement back. I think last year, we got a grant. What, Trish, about what,
She had to leave.
We got a grant of about $5,700, to buy some equipment, safety equipment. So
Oh.
each year, we make an application and we get refunded back.
Was it a city and county
Yeah.
group insuring each other, joint powers? Okay. Okay.
The
So I had.
last comment I was going to mention is, once again, good news. Our cash flow is positive, and it's always good to be in the positive cash flow. Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
You're probably on the second page, the Belmont Industry, that was the street light got knocked down, and we finally got that approved and there, and so that's $1,300, and that's reimbursed from the insurance.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, sheriff's report, we didn't get one, I guess. It's not in my packet.
We,
Library?
that's what, like 4 months now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we can,
3 maybe, but yeah, it's been a while.
it'll be 4. It'd
Probably
be kind of
should.
nice to know, I don't know, Eric, was there any kind of report? Nothing?
Well, yeah, we're not on that report yet. But. Okay, the library report, everybody got that? Any questions on it?
No.
Okay. Roger, let's go to let's finish off the category here before we go back to, what is it that we skipped over? Green power. So Roger.
Do we have?
Did anybody come in from Green Power?
I don't know.
Talk from Malaya? No, it's not, yeah.
Well, it's over half an hour. Maybe we ought to just drop it.
Yeah.
Okay. Your report, Roger?
Okay, Public Works, just kind of recap, our utility boxes and meters are delivered and in, and so the crews will start making the transition and installing the boxes and getting them ready. The software training will occur October 12th and 13th, and so we'll be negotiating, getting those things installed so that the software will be integrated and the person in the train start getting out the water bills for the November. Timing-wise, the code enforcement, we've got the home occupancy in front of you tonight to review it. The attorneys reviewed it, and changes, ready to be introduced and looked at. And the deed in Rojo tonight will be in front of you for a PUD revised permit. Just to let you know that the Rancho subdivision, they're just about finished hauling the dirt, and they stockpiling it. They submitted the plans to us, we're checking it now, and then they will be back in front of you with the subdivision agreement, the performance bonds, labor and field bonds, and all the necessary requirements and insurance policies, and then they approve the map generally, and you will approve it with the exception, with the acceptance of the offer of dedication to the roads, conservation map, and then they will be bonding it to make sure that there's adequate funds to do all the improvements. That's going to be a lengthy process moving forward. And in our management report there, we just to let you know is we're still processing the well number 4 site. We are also authorized with Jory Brothers to do the test well on well number 5 site, which is going to be well number 2 replacement, and that's going to be on the Eden Bridge subdivision. The Eden Bridge subdivision kind of got delayed, but it'll be back in front of the planning commission in September.
That's not affecting the well process, though, is it?
No, we have access to the well site and the drilling
Okay.
and the geotechnical investigation to make sure that it's a suitable site.
Okay. I wouldn't want that to, I mean, we've got the State Water Resources Control Board writing to us about adding houses without the well capacity. I mean, if we don't want to get into a situation where they're holding, their process is holding this up, which then it becomes a catch-22, because we can't add the houses because we don't have the water, but we don't have the water because they're holding,
It's a vicious circle, and
Yeah.
I think we got it on board. I think what the water board didn't understand is our analysis that we've done to LAFCO, to the council, the planning commission, identifying our needs, and the 2 wells that are operating now are sufficient. And then we're working on 2 more new wells,
Right.
as well as we have negotiated with Mr. Koch a well that's right next to our main, and that he didn't want to sell it, but he leased it to us. And if we push came to shove, we could negotiate a quick agreement with him, and that could be hooked up within 2 or 3 days.
Gotcha.
So we have lots of options at our fingertips.
Sure. Well, I think I think we're all on the same page that we definitely want to get those wells online and running as quickly as possible, because then we can get to the treatment plant too.
Exactly.
And that'll be, I think, a fantastic thing. I mean, the community's just waited so long for that. So.
Any other questions?
Roger, on the subdivision bond, how long do those last? I mean, we're not going to get it, like we did up,
No, the brewery, no. These bonds here, we revised our subdivision agreement. It goes to the life of the project until they're finished. And then they come to the city engineer or manager and ask to release the funds. We can release it to where there's no more than the necessary funds to complete it. And generally, the way subdivisions work is once they finish and construct everything, we'll release 90% of the money. We'll keep 10% for the next year in case there's any failures.
Right.
yeah, when I did Orchard Park over in Hauser, that's what, that 10% sat there for.
For time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of guaranteed for internet use and stuff like that.
Good.
I had a question. The first paragraph talks about the Assembly for Fire Protection System Conversions. That just didn't ring a bell with me. What is that? Fire system conversions?
Each box that is installed is a larger box now than the normal water box. And in there is a meter for the domestic water, and then it's teed off, and then there's a slave that goes in for a sprinkler system, and every house has to have a sprinkler system. A lot of the older homes will not be equipped, but we have the boxes there so that when it does, it's capable of having that. All new homes are equipped so that it'll have the water meter and the fire sprinkling system in the same box.
Okay, now when Richard Ponce built his house, he had to put the system in, didn't he?
Yes.
And are the new homes required to put the system in?
All new homes are required, yes.
And it'll be hooked up?
And be hooked up. Right?
Oh, okay. All right, now I understand.
Yeah, that's right. Now, when a older home is remodeled, if the remodeling occurs 75% or more, then they're obligated to bring it up to the fire sprinkler standards. We just got through doing one on 3rd Street there, and it didn't meet that threshold of 75%, so he didn't have to do it.
Oh, that one down the
Yeah.
street, yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, Richards was a major project,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Roger. Okay, next we go to City Council Committee reports. Who wants to start?
We're having a little challenge with the intergovernmental committee. The county board of supervisors has decided that they are questioning the usefulness of the group, and the chair basically told the county staff to stop supporting the activities of the group, which effectively turned it off. So we got no notice. There was no notification. We all showed up for our meeting, and it had not been posted. The paperwork hadn't been distributed for the Brown Act, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're working on. We've spoken to the city of Hollister, and we're going to have a meeting and invite the county to participate and move that forward. But they're it sounds like they're figuring some stuff out. It was odd. The whole thing was strange. From my perspective, it was completely out of the blue. And to have Supervisor Rivas essentially unilaterally pull the plug was quite a shock.
And he's never been to one of the meetings.
I think he's been to one of the meetings. He and Supervisor Patello are the two representatives from the Board of Supervisors. Anthony's been to all of the meetings. I missed one earlier this year, and I believe Robert Rivas attended that one meeting, but he has not been at any of the other.
Was this a consensus of the board decision, or was this unilaterally done by the chair?
I think there was. I don't know, because I have not seen any transcripts. It was very confused. It sounded like the board was questioning it, but it sounded like Mr. Rivas took it upon himself to direct the staff to stop supporting the meetings.
I wonder if the board wasn't in agreement with that. You haven't talked to Anthony?
Well, I've spoken to Anthony, and Anthony, it was unclear. He was pretty upset himself, I think.
Okay, so
I think,
and
just to give you just a historical perspective, when we started the Intergovernmental Committee, it was really to bring the agency together and look in ways that we could share some of our resources and our manpower to eliminate some of the duplications of the agencies. And as it kind of built around, then it got kind of focused into talking about more social issues of homeless and housing and stuff like that. And each one of those are separate into each entity. But the intent was always to talk about how can we share amongst the counties and the cities to
use facilities and manpower jointly to get the services done, and that was originally our intent.
We'd have stuff like San Houston come up, and homeless, and can drives.
And the fire district was fostered over that initial conversation that we had at the intergovernmental committee.
I think it's a shame. I can appreciate that, them feeling like it may not have been as productive as it could be and needing adjustment, perhaps not having 2 representatives from each body, so that it wasn't taking up quite so much time. I personally was surprised at how much time the staff appeared to be spending on some of the projects. They didn't appear to me, to Roger's point, it got a little farther afield, and the county staff was doing some pretty extensive research in some subjects.
Especially when Sarah was there.
Right, when Sarah, primarily with Sarah, but I think that largely had to do with the bond issue, or not the bond issue, but the transportation measure P, was it?
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of work done around that. And
also the fiber optics was a big part.
Yeah. So a variety of issues. But that, to me, that was a good example of where we should be working together. The opportunity to provide fiber, exactly.
Right. San Juan was going to be involved, City Hollister, all that, where the transmission started.
Yeah.
How they were going to shoot a microwave from Union Avenue to here. And that was where it should have been, that kind of stuff.
So we're working toward a new meeting, and I don't know if the county will participate immediately, and we were in the process of, gearing up to create bylaws for that body. It was pretty loose. It absolutely was pretty loose. And so that kind of input, like you've mentioned, would be helpful.
My take on it too is they got too many issues at a meeting, and you got to focus it and identify 4 or 5 key and really go at it.
Yeah, I think that's very good input. I think that's very good input, because there was no reason for some of those meetings to run as long as they did, because they got very far afield. But anyway.
Okay.
2-hour meetings.
Yeah, or more.
All
They didn't
meetings are
involve
2
San Juan
hours.
at all in most of them.
Yeah.
They're all 2 hours, at least.
Fired down about
Tony?
35 minutes.
Do you have anything in the orchard?
That's on the agenda for later.
Oh, okay. As far as COG goes, nothing from last month, but Thursday's meeting, we're going to revisit Prop P, and in fact, I didn't bring it with me, but I have some, I want to change it around to, Prop P got out of hand. It was supposed to be to fix the roads and possibly build new roads. But when you start throwing in buses and bike lanes and safe way to get to school and all this other stuff, it just blew it out, on top of which they said 50% was going on Highway 25. 50% of that money going to 25 is a drop in the bucket. It's just, I don't know what they were thinking. I was not at the meeting when they said it. All right. They did it when I was in the hospital. So now I'm going after them, and it won't be on the ballot until 2018. But in my opinion, we should go to 0.5%, 10 years, strictly for roads, and an oversight committee and the whole thing, which P was just, it was not well done.
Like you said, 50%.
We're surprised it got so close, very honestly.
You're saying 50%, drop in the bucket there. That money would just sit there, because they're never going to come up with the rest of the money unless something
see,
happens.
one of the important things, and one thing that wasn't pointed out was, if a county enacts a sales tax for roads and improvements, they become what is known as a self-help committee or community.
Yeah.
And that opens up a whole bunch of different fundings that.
The state recognizes that term or that status.
Right.
And there's a lot more funding available at the state and federal level for communities that are self-help communities.
See, we're not a self-help, but we're one of the few that is not a self-help, and so.
Would we have become one if we had passed it?
Passed that.
Yeah.
Because we had that specific tax specifically for the transportation purposes.
You know, I think you know, a bureaucrat looks at something like this and says, oh, if we put all these other things in there, then we'll appeal to somebody and they'll all pass it. But I think the public looks at something like that and says, if you take all this garbage stuff out and just focus on the roads, I'll vote for that.
Well, the irony was,
everybody I talked to said that's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, the irony was when they made the presentation to the Intergovernmental Committee about Measure P and they had hired the consultant, that's exactly what the consultant told them.
Yeah.
Keep it narrow, keep it roads, don't add this other stuff. And it had a solid majority in the community when they did the polling.
Confused mind says
no. I mean, it's just like, I don't know how many people, well, 60-some% in District 2, Supervisor Battel's district, voted for it. But I'm sure that a lot of people didn't, the minute you said the money's going to Highway 25, why do I want to tax myself for 25?
Yeah.
Especially when you got a community here that doesn't even use 25.
Right. Well, that was the whole point, you know.
Not much.
So, anyhow, hopefully in 2 years, we'll, presuming I'm still on COG, I don't know.
Well, I had on the subject of COG, AMBAG is a transportation. Those are both directly transportation related, and I wonder if it wouldn't make more sense for Tony, you to take both of those committees, both of those groups.
I'm not interested in going to AMBAG. I'll be real honest with you. Every AMBAG meeting that I attended, about halfway through I fell asleep.
I can appreciate that.
You talk about a boring meeting.
Okay.
You know, so.
Yeah.
And I don't really, you know what? I don't really know why we belong to it. I have never figured that part out. But don't be fussing your.
No, I just, like I said, transportation related.
I have no report on LAFCO because we met early in the month before the last month's meeting, so.
Yeah.
And I had the fire meeting in intergovernment, so you've already heard the intergovernment. Fire was pretty much the same report that I got from Battalion Chief. And no Monterey Bay Air meeting was last month, and the meeting is tomorrow for that. So I will report next month about tomorrow's meeting for air quality.
Let's go, Robert, quick. At those meetings, does it ever come up about a unification of the whole fire district? I mean,
that's what they were talking about, a fire district. I wanted to ask about that.
For the county.
Pardon me?
the whole county.
The county, yeah.
There would be a countywide fire district.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's talking about.
It's something that's really going to be, it's going to be kind of hard to educate, and with a 2-year process, might happen, but I think it would probably is going to be 4 years.
Yeah. Well, in my conversation with somebody else, it came up that, did you realize there are 14 school districts in this county?
Always has been.
I think each one has their own district, huh?
Yeah.
Sometimes feel that way. Well,
Okay, let's go to
the fire district is I mean, it makes sense to me. I think it's going to be, as you said, a big, long educational. Yeah, I mean, and you look,
everybody around us has.
Yeah, any issues that we have with Hollister Fire, I mean, we have no control. We have absolutely no control. And if we're able to create the fire district for the entire jurisdiction, the whole entire county, then it's a level playing field for everybody, like you said, and we all get to participate. But it comes with a burden.
Okay, let's go to the neighborhood watch report. Eric?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff. We had a meeting last Thursday. And we had Melody McDonald with the Santa Cruz Regional 911 system do a presentation for us. They were here last year and had a great presentation. This year was no different. Some of the stats they had handed over to us is that, first of all, they cover Santa Cruz County, San Benito County, Hollister, and Monterey, I believe.
North County?
I believe so. They take in over 600,000 calls per year. San Benito County Sheriff's Department alone takes in almost 19,000 of those calls. Of these specific 911 based calls, 153,000 come through a landline, and over 113,000 come through cellular phones. And that's a significant increase from last year. So lots of people, I don't even have a landline, so lots of people are going purely cellular and don't have landlines. Of that 600,000 calls, over 400,000 were dispatched out, be it an emergency, non-emergency, or just getting a response. One of the things that we had mentioned last year, and I'll mention it again, is Code Red. It's an app you can get on your phone. You can also go to the Regional 911 site, and they have a link to it. What Code Red does is you can take your, you can put in your cell phone number and apply your address to that number. And where that benefits is when you have, if they do reverse 911 calling, it can be sent to your cell phone if you're in that region of which they are doing the reverse 911 call. Missing persons, shelter in place, whatever it may be, if you go there and register your phone, you'll now get that, whereas before it was only going to landlines for the area. One of the other apps they have is called Pulse Point. And if you are a person who knows CPR or certified CPR, you would sign up on this app. And what it does is if there's a person in distress and needs CPR within walking distance of your phone, it alerts you, because you might be able to get there faster than first responders. And I know during the meeting, John Hopper was there. He has said he's actually received alerts within the town, albeit a little bit more than just a standard walking distance, but he has received those. And when you get that pop-up that there's somebody in need, it'll actually tell you where the automatic defibrillation,
the AED?
The AEDs, it'll tell you where they are. So if you're walking from Daisy's and there's, obviously the fire department's here, pretend they're not, and there's somebody up here in distress, but it says there's an AED sitting at the cafe, you can, on your way, grab it and take it with you in case it's needed. So it's kind of a neat app, but it does, it's not for everybody. It's if you are CPR. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it also shows all the dispatches for the Hollister Fire Department.
Oh, it does. Okay.
So you can, if you're interested, and I did it for some time, it'll show you everything that they're dispatched for. The sheriffs are not listed. I think the Hollister PD is, but the Hollister Fire Department, you literally will see every dispatch that they get.
Is that in Pulse Point or Code Red?
It's Pulse Point.
Pulse Point, okay.
It can be interesting. You'll hear the siren in the evening, and you'll know you'll know exactly what it's for. It's interesting.
So I thought both of those, again, they told us about that last year. She went into it a little more in depth. I have her business cards I'd like to pass out to you guys, just so you have it.
Is that it?
No, I think
That's not it?
it'll,
Maybe I didn't finish it off then.
But again, they came last year and were extremely impressive last year. When we invited them back, they were actually really enthusiastic. And I think this is probably a really good annual thing to just have them come in. You should be able to go to the website, which is on that business card. And for those watching on TV, it's www.scr911.org. And if you go there, you can get to the Code Red app, or to the Code Red sign up from your computer. And you can also see their report, which is a lot of what was in their presentation. It's some pretty interesting numbers.
Are they online with the text to 911 yet?
I believe they are with the text to 911 app. She briefly covered it, and its main purpose is two items. One is for the hearing impaired, being able to, hey, I need help, as opposed to having to go through their system they have. That can be somewhat cumbersome. This helps hearing impaired out. Also, if you're in a situation where your home is being invaded and you're in a closet upstairs and talking on the phone might not be the best thing in the world, text in your...
Safety issue.
Safety issue. Exactly.
But they didn't release any stats on that?
No, that's a very new system. Dennis Kidd, who is the director, he wasn't able to make this meeting, but I know last year he was really enthusiastic. He actually helped get this thing, kind of push it to get it going. Melody was actually really excited to mention it. Somebody actually mentioned it to her, and she was like, I can't believe I forgot to tell you about that. So.
Good. How many people do they have working there?
That's a good question. She told me, and I don't remember.
I mean, they
quite a few.
Well, they get almost 2,000 calls a day.
Yeah, it's a big operation.
Must be.
I think John might know. John, how many people do you think work at Santa Cruz 911?
A lot. Okay.
I know she, I was just curious. She actually described what happens. Obviously, they, during nighttime they don't have as many. They do ramp up toward the busy portion of the day and then ramp off. And they're done. She described it as being almost a two-man team. Someone will be on the phone with the person who's calling into 911, and then a second person will be listening and starting to dispatch it out. So it's not just someone taking the call and dispatching. There's two people on the line, so
well, and they had said they do it regionally within their group. They'll have people that are dedicated to San Benito County, so it's not completely generic. They do for overflow, but that's why I think there's been some concern that historically there were challenges with not understanding the address and the geography here.
Right.
But
it's improving.
It's night and day. I've called 911 a fair amount for a variety of reasons, and I have not had any issues along those lines. So I don't think that's an issue any longer.
Right.
And they said that they specifically had people that were dedicated to.
Right. And she said that their maps are getting a lot better too. So she says when she gets calls, especially for San Juan or places where there might be questionable, she can actually drop it in and blow it up and say, okay, are you on this side? Are you on this side? And what's going on? Just another thing to let people be aware of. When you call from a cell phone, in most places you would get the CHP. Within San Juan, they work with the cellular companies to help pinpoint where you're at. So if you're standing here and you dial from your cell phone, if everything is working right, it will send you straight to 911 as opposed to the CHP, which would then transfer you over. They say they're fine-tuning those all the time based on where things are coming from. I know out on the north end of town where I live, I always get the CHP. But I know from center of town, several people said no, when I call, I get straight to the 911 operator.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, we'll go to public hearing items. First one is consider approval of Resolution 2016, amendment of the D'Ambrosio tentative map into two phases. Phase 1, lots 1 through 8, and Phase 2, lots 9 through 27. Roger?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the D'Ambrosio subdivision was first approved back in 2012 for 40 units. After sitting vacant for a time, it came back in 2014, and the D'Ambrosios lowered it from 40 down to 27 with a redesign and larger lots and a little bit better. It was approved in 2014. The elite development group from Watsonville came in and has taken it over now, and they would like to split it into 2 phases, still doing the total improvements. Conditions of approval is going to apply, but they want to do it in 2 different phases. And for them to do that, you would have to approve amendment of the PUD permit. In 2014, you approved the PUD permit for 27 lots. And that would mean they would have to do all of it at one time. And they want to do the first 8 lots in the first phase along 3rd Street, widen 3rd Street, get all of those facilities in. But at the time when they're doing that, they'll grade the whole subdivision and get the rough grades for the road, Nicholas Drive around, and get it all set. Then when they finish the first 8 lots, then they'll come back in front of the Planning Commission for site design review for the next 19 lots, which would be the 2nd phase. So they're asking the City Council to adopt the resolution and amend the PUD permit into 2 phases. All of the conditions that applied for the full subdivision will still be applicable. And then we've done the findings. Deborah from the law office, she's looked at the findings, made some recommendations to strengthen it, to make sure that it'll pass the test if anybody challenges it. And now it's just a question of, the applicants are in the audience here, and they're certainly welcome to come up. And if you have any questions, they're here to speak of it. The applicants have gone to the Planning Commission for the first 8 lots and have approved the design reviews for those in terms of the architecture. There's a combination of 2 stories, single stories on the first 8 lots, and setbacks, a variety of setbacks, so that and roof elevations, so that you see a diversity of homes in different architectural styles, and they're not all the same type.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what, the tentative map versus final map, what is that? Just help me with the terminology and the timing.
Yeah, the tentative map is a process where the Planning Commission approves it. The tentative map is good for 2 years, and then they can ask for an extension. They have to bring it back in front of the council for final map approval prior to the expiration of that time. And when they bring it back to you, we will have the subdivision agreement, the bonds, the favorable performance bonds, labor materials, all the fees, and it'll be presented to you. And in this case, the offer of dedication for 3rd Street widening will be in front of you for the first phase, and then when the 2nd phase comes, it would be Nicholas Drive.
All that. And is that done prior to any construction? Or?
Oh yeah, right. Before they start construction for the thing, they will bring you the map for the first phase.
That'll be the final.
That's usually part of the system, is that you have the tentative map and it has all the conditions of approval. And that's where you have really the discretion, is to change the tentative map. So then they work on all the conditions of approval and get everything done, and then the final map is almost ministerial, where it's almost a check that all the conditions of approval.
Done, and then it's gone through.
And then on the final map, there are 2 certificates amongst a lot of other certificates, and that is the planning director signs it as to say that the tentative map and the final map are substantially in conformance.
Right.
And then the city engineer has to sign it that the tentative map substantially conforms to the approved tentative map.
Okay. And so the work that I guess it's clearing that's going on now, or that has begun.
Over the weekend,
not grading.
They didn't authorize any construction. It was just to clean that large pile of shrubbery that was done from years, and it was a lot of people. People were going and dumping their own trash in there, so it was good that we got it out of there, and now the site is clean.
Good. Okay, thanks.
That's it?
Actually, I'd like to ask Eric what kind of conversations came up about that?
I had a review.
Okay. Also, on number 6 here, it says the applicant shall install a 6-foot-high architectural stucco fence along the westerly and south property line of the project, and a 6-foot-high wood fence along the southerly property line next to the cemetery. So is this going to be like a gated community then?
No.
Or
this
just
is
the wall?
Just a wall, and that hides the sewer treatment plant, there. And then the back from the cemetery, it'll be just a regular wood fence.
Okay.
And then along the easterly side fence.
So it's just going to be like a barrier along?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Just like a fence between you and your neighbor. Now, from the standpoint of standing in front of 3rd Street, you'll see 8 homes, and then elevated above that will be the next 19 homes on smaller lots, because it's a PUD. Now, in the conditions of approval, it will also incorporate a mini roundabout at the corner of Donner and 3rd Street.
Now, my question before on the roundabout, will it be large enough for fire apparatus?
Oh, yes.
It'll be plenty, okay.
But small enough to preclude 18-wheelers.
Roger, there was a resident was here prior to the meeting beginning asking about the, I guess, traffic calming measures. And I think she asked about it's referred to as a modified speed bump or a raised crosswalk. And I'm not sure, she was looking for a clarification on what a modified speed bump might be.
A modified speed bump is not just the little bump that's currently there. It's probably extending 6 to 8 feet wide. It goes up about 4 inches, and it's a gradual thing, but when you go up, you go over.
Right.
You see them a lot in Ridgemark subdivision.
Okay.
The small little speed bumps are only 12 inches wide, and they go up 6 inches, and they jar you and everything. A raised crosswalk is one that goes up about 2 to 3 inches, and then it's flat, and it comes down, and there's a transition in it.
Right.
And that's becoming more and more popular in downtown districts where you want to control the speed.
Good, thank you.
Okay, I guess the applicants are here.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, council member, and staff. My name is Hodge Tut. This is my brother, Juggy Tut. And before I allow my brother to kind of dig into why we think phasing this into 2 different phases would be mutually beneficial, if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to just really briefly introduce ourselves and tell you about who we are and where we're from. So we were both born and raised in Watsonville. We lived there our entire lives, minus the 4 years that we went to school out in Colorado and got degrees in real estate and construction management, came back, started Elite Agriculture and Elite Transportation. We also work in farming and transportation as well, and just recently started our next venture into real estate. At this time, we have a number of projects in our portfolio. A first one that we already began construction in Watsonville, a 48 townhome project. We have another project in Watsonville that would be a commercial project including 2 hotels, a gas station, and 4 restaurant pads. Another project in Monterey, which would be 17 custom home subdivision, and 2 more projects in Gilroy. One would be a 63-unit apartment complex, and the other would be a 58 mixed condo, flat, and townhome project. So that's everything that we got. And if you guys have any questions for us personally before we talk and get into this, I'd be happy to answer those.
Have you any completed projects?
No completed projects yet. Watsonville will be our first completed project. We are actually working with the support of my dad, who has done some, Sonny Tut back there, who's done some real estate development up north in Yuba City. He's done some larger scale projects that have been completed.
What's your estimated finishing time on the Watsonville?
Watsonville, we should be done within the next 18 months.
Any other questions? Okay.
No.
Yeah, my name is Juggy, and I just wanted to start off by apologizing for the dust and debris being kicked up. There was some miscommunication between our construction manager and the operator, so I know some of the planning commissioners live in the area, so I wanted to apologize for that, and it won't happen again. But we did get it cleared up. I know the debris pile's been there for a while, and we had to wait till August to do that, so I just want to get that out of the way. Roger basically covered everything. I was going to say, this phasing will allow us to improve 3rd Street and widen it, because I know that's been a priority for a while, and I know this project has come up a few times with the Ambrosio family. So I think the first thing we would do is do the improvements, all the retaining walls that are necessary, the rough grading, and improve on the drainage on the site, which would really help out that whole area down there. I know it's had some issues in the past. Phase 1, once we begin, we're projected between 15 to 18 months, so about up to a year and a half for all 8 homes to be completed. We're shooting for, well, as soon as we get the approval, but I'm guessing maybe early spring. That way, the weather and grading and all that won't be such a factor. This phasing, it will allow us more time to properly develop the 2nd phase, which is going to be the rest of the units, which is going to be a more affordable product than what will be on the front 8 units. The front 8 units, we were thinking of tying into the houses down Donner Street and into 3rd Street, so it's a gradual transition. I know there's a lot of, Spanish style homes, craftsmen's, and we're thinking of doing the same thing as we have down there. That's all I really have. This lot's been there for a while. We're looking forward to working with Roger and Rudy and staff and the city and helping develop this area. If there are any questions.
Any questions?
No, seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, I wanted to ask, all of the conditions of the agreement are listed and numbered. Are any of them specific to Phase 1 and others specific to Phase 2, or do you have to meet all of the conditions in the beginning, or does your performance bond cover the completion of the conditions that will be accomplished later?
Good question.
I think the question there is that will be identified in the subdivision agreement. Like condition 28, the roundabout, that is part of the first phase of Phase 1, but the paving and curb and gutter of Nicholas Drive is in Phase 2. So we will identify those in the engineering estimate, and they'll be bonding the improvements and all of the facilities, full grading and the improvements of Phase 1. And then when they get ready to do Phase 1, they'll be bonding those physical improvements. Curb, gutter, sidewalk, water lines, sewer lines, and everything.
So at what point does the subdivision agreement come in?
When you get the final map of, they will get ready to record the first phase of the first 8 lots. You will have
the final on the first phase?
Yes.
Okay, so then we do an agreement on the whole project?
Yes, and it's just like right now I'm doing Rancho Vista, and there was 7 phases, and they've elected to do the first 4 phases. Well, we broke out the first 4 phases, got the engineering estimate, and all the conditions that are applicable to that, and then that agreement will be coming to you. Right. And then the 4th, 5th, and 6th will be a separate package that they'll bring a subdivision agreement, and that's more going to be right across the street from this development here and across the creek and by the sewer treatment plant. So it's just run into 2 different phases.
So basically in this, once this is split into 2 phases, the roundabout would be done and the curb gutter and sidewalk and the street improvements and the retaining wall between the first 8 and the upper 19. And then some grading on, what is it, Nicholas Court goes, and then that's it on the upper level, right?
We call it the rough grading. So that it'll be roughed out and everything, and then ready, so that then when they start the next phase, then they can start the undergrounding of the sewer, the water, electrical, telephone, storm drain, and then get that all in there, and then the pads, and then away they go with the curb gutter, sidewalk, and pavement. and then they'll get the building permits.
Okay.
So,
So then, performance bonds would apply to each phase separately?
that is correct.
Okay.
And in this case here, we will identify when this is going to be required in that phase.
Okay.
When will the second phase, is the second phase going to be immediately after?
Yeah, so once the architect's done designing, the structural, civil's done, and all those kinds of finalized, he's going to start right away on phase 2. So they're going to be somewhat concurrently planned, so there's not going to be there's not going to be like a year in between or anything. As soon as we're done with these 8 homes, we're hoping to be ready to move right behind with the next phase 2.
And to give you a perspective, the improvement plans for the first phase, Alan from M&H has designed the whole subdivision, and then I've checked the whole subdivision, and then we're concentrating on the first phase. He has the pads and the grading, and minus a few variations, and it's all approved and everything. And when they commence on the second phase, he says all those improvement plans will be approved already. It's just now they'll have to come back in front of the Planning Commission for site design of the individual homes.
Okay.
Are you doing this financially? You want to do the first phase first? Is this
That's
financial?
another reason. Yeah, we're doing something similar with our project in Watsonville, and it's been working out well. So.
Okay.
So.
I'm okay.
I only had one question. Item 31, design for utilization of reclaimed water provided by the city. You think by that time we'll have approval from those? I'm still waiting for the cemetery.
Yeah, no, I'm positive. Simone submitted us the last draft of the thing. I got it on my desk and we're going through it. And they've modified and relaxed some of the testing requirements. And so I think it's by being persistent, I think it's paid off, and we'll be inking some agreements with the Regional Water Quality Control Board and get that thing going.
I'm one of the directors on the cemetery too, and my people won't be complaining about your noise and stuff. But we want to use this water to keep the cemetery green too. So
Irrigate.
anytime I see it, I go, oh boy.
But brown's the new green.
Yeah, there you go.
They tell me.
I had one more question. So Roger, the subdivision agreement, when we get to that stage of the process, that will come before us for approval or planning
Yes,
commission?
that'll be
That'll come to
a
us.
formal agreement between this developer and the city.
Okay, all right, I'm fine.
And feel free to stop in. I've given it to Deborah and we've checked it and she's made some modifications we've gone through and I can show you the agreement. It's about a 15-page document.
Yeah, that's okay. If it's coming back to us, I'll see it then. I'll see it when it's coming back. It could change in the meantime. Okay, no more questions? Okay, thank you.
So you need a motion?
No public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards on this? No speaker cards. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wanted to comment on this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. So now, discussion, motion.
Pretty much all the questions I asked?
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward at this point.
Who wants to read it?
Go for it.
Okay, I make a motion that we pass resolution 2016 40. A resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the D'Ambrosio revised planned unit development permit for assessor parcels number 002, 026, 011, and 012.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember West, absent. Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Lund,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Margarita,
Aye.
Mayor Rich,
Yes.
and 4 members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the mayor passes 1 to 1.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Get her done.
Okay, we'll go to item B, consider an ordinance regulating home occupations and permits for home occupations. Do I have that in here? Oh, here we go. Roger, you want to give us a brief?
Well, I'm going to ask Rudy to come in. He's been guiding and everything. And just to give you a broad perspective, the Planning Commission recognized that there was a weakness in our municipal code that didn't really cover this aspect of people starting business out of their house and stuff. And so they comprehensively looked at the whole picture and did a good job, and they came back with some recommendations, and we've crafted it into a ordinance, and Deborah has checked it out, and so I'm ready.
Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff, my name is Rudy Luki, and I am the Assistant Planner here at the City of San Juan Bautista. This home occupation permit and home occupation regulations was I guess a long piece of work. We had several workshops in order to try to get everything right, and as Roger pointed out, there was a weakness in the municipal code in regards to the regulations and the permitted uses and not permitted uses for home occupations in the residential districts, therefore leaving any type of potential business open to come in with the home occupation. All they had to do was circle something on the current business license that says yes, it's a home occupation, without having much explanation as to what was going to go on. So as I mentioned during the workshops and extensive workshops and Planning Commission meetings, we've come with the ordinance before you for the first reading, and we feel that this would help the city regulate the home occupations, and getting rid of some that we really don't want to see in the city, as far as some that might cause some type of health or public welfare, cause something bad against that. So I feel that this new ordinance here, it is a new ordinance pretty much. I feel that it's very strong, and it's going to help staff regulate this home occupation problem, as well as it'll help the applicants know what they can and can't do as far as businesses out of their homes. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer.
Yeah, now the businesses that are already existing now, so we're looking at like some safety issues, some environmental issues, and other issues. I'll leave that kind of a broad thing there. Some of these people that have been in business for a long time through their home occupancies, is there going to be any grandfathering in, or if we don't really agree with what they're doing, are we going to just not permit them?
That's a very good question. I could see that we could potentially grandfather in some of the existing home occupations. I have seen a lot of them come by the city as far as doing like internet sales and things of that nature.
Low impact environmental stuff.
Right, yeah, but as far as somebody who has been repairing cars out of their home and continues to do that, I think we're gonna kind of put a stop to that, just because that causes nuisances and also does some environmental hazards as far as spilling oil onto the city streets or city grounds, which then could backtrack on us as far as some type of environmental audit. So
there's no provision in the ordinance for any grandfathering. I mean, it's just yes or no.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's got to get a permit.
Yeah.
I'm aware of one guy that's repairing his cars and parking them on the street.
Yeah,
in a residential district.
It's not my neighbor, is it?
I don't know where you live anymore.
Via Padre. Guy next door, he put a Plymouth station wagon out for Sunday, but he didn't sell it.
Well, I think too is the whole nature is that it'll strengthen Rudy and my applications of code enforcement to say, this is not allowed, and then we can go through the existing code for abating that, and there's provisions all through the existing code to abate. Take, for instance, repair of automobiles and grease on the sidewalk, There's a number of them that we've discovered, and we can go after them, so.
Well, there's no ambiguity here.
Yeah,
That's
right.
It makes sense to me.
No, this is great because, every city has this, and we didn't have one. But it's very common. You have to regulate this sort of
You
thing.
could say chemical spills, it doesn't have to go to cars.
Where I used to live, there was a guy that ran a chiropractor business out of there, about 2 doors down from me on Franklin, back in the 70s and 80s, I guess.
Well, and that would actually be allowed, potentially.
Yeah,
Within limits, that would be allowed.
within the restrictions on the number of patients and that sort of thing.
But we'd probably hold them to the same as any other business with like parking regulations, putting handicap, excessive, accessible. So.
Well, I think the real point of this thing is at least now everybody knows, these are the ground rules, and this is what you can or can't do. And they come into the desk there, and if they come in and apply for a business license, you can.
Well, our code enforcement would take care of this.
Good.
Right.
Connie, do we have any speaker cards? No?
And just to remind you, this is an ordinance. An ordinance would be introduced and read by title only for your consideration, and then it'll be back at your next meeting for adoption thereof.
Okay.
Well, I move. So what's the terminology here?
Let me
call for. Pardon me.
Yeah. I'll open the public hearing. If there's anybody that hasn't turned in a speaker card but wants to speak. Okay, we'll close the public hearing then. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
And so what's the terminology here?
Introduce and read by title only.
I'd like to introduce and read by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista approving regulations for a home occupation permit and amendment of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code to add section 11-07, home occupation regulations.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Who's absent? Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Lund?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Margarita?
Aye.
Mayor Rench?
Yes.
All members, 4 members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to the revision to development impact fees for secondary units. Roger, is this yours? I guess this is ours.
One of the downfalls of affordable housing is permits, and I discovered this when Andy Moore came and wants to build a secondary unit, went through the planning commission and got it for his mother, and she's 90 years old, and there's been a few other people that have stepped forward and want to build secondary units. And in the application of our impact fees, it doesn't differentiate whether I can charge a reduced fee. It just says the impact fees will be $23,000 for whether it's a 600 square foot lot, a building, or 2,000 square foot. And I thought that was somewhat inequitable. It discourages and puts a constraint on secondary units being developed, which is a means of affordable housing for certain people and stuff in the rental market. And so what I did was I prepared a staff report here to show you what a typical 2,000 square foot house would be, and their total amounts to about $33,000 worth of fees. By the time you get the building permits and then the school impact fees and our $23,000. And if I divide that by the 2,000 square foot, it's about $16.54. I take that same application on the next page, on the second page, and I says, what's a typical 600 square foot house, for a secondary. And that's the maximum size that a secondary unit can be built. And in Andy's case, he's building one that's 590 square feet for his mother. But I would have to apply $23,000. I looked at the school impact fees, and it'd be $1,782, and then the building permit would be $16,100, and then his permit to go in front of the planning commission and get approval. So he would have to pay $26,983 to build a home for his mother. Now that's over and above, that's just to get the building permit before you pound a nail, and now it's the construction. Generally, the construction of any home runs about $130 a square foot. So I thought that was a big constraint, and Danny says if it's going to cost him that, he's not going to do it. And I've talked to another person, and even Caravank has come to us, the planning commission, and she has a long, narrow lot, but it's big. It's like a almost 9,500 square foot lot, and she wanted to build a secondary unit on hers. And when they look at these fees, they're going to say, well, we're not going to do this. And that's just a mechanism. So I applied the analysis and down below this, and I looked at the square footage, I looked at the plumbing fixtures, and I looked at the total fees, in terms of $16.54 versus $44. And I tried to balance these things off in terms of the things and come up with a set thing. And basically, after analyzing all the stuff, I come up with that the impact fee for a secondary unit of 600, maximum 600, should be about 25% of the normal fee, which would be $5,834. Okay. Then I took a look at the building permit fees, and normal building permit fees will run right about $1,600. And in the application of that, we're here to provide service. And I looked at the service of what we do in inspections to say we should really be revenue neutral. We shouldn't be making a profit on trying to encourage affordable housing. So I analyzed and I took and I subtracted what the meter cost us, what the meter box cost us, and then the state imposed fees, the green fee and the strong motion instrumentation fees. Those are things that are required by the state. That leaves me about $810 that is left over. And I looked at what does a building inspection cost. And I've analyzed it in the very thing, you've got plan checking, you've got foundation, you've got framing, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, all of the necessary things, drywalling, finished electrical, gas meter inspections, and then the final. And I analyzed generally when Rudy and I will go there, the times that we spend out there for there. Sometimes on a house it'll get a little bit more and sometimes a little less, but it averages out. And basically we put in these hours, and this is based on the hourly rate that Rudy and I would charge for a normal inspection fee. And basically it's in the code, it's $60 an hour that we charge for our overhead and our salary, fringe benefits and everything. And that fee, it pretty much matches total compensation needs, because for every dollar you spend in salary, you've got Social Security, workman comp, health, the benefits, all of this stuff, vacation, sick leave, uniform allowance. By the time you add that up, you're talking about $55 to $60 an hour to put a person on board. That's the fact of life we have to deal with. So when I analyze this, I come up with $810, and it tells me that we're revenue neutral if we reduce that $1,617 down to $1,075. That it's still equitable. We're getting compensated for our service, but we're providing the service to encourage those affordable secondary units to be built.
So you're looking at anything that's 600 square foot and less?
Yes. So basically what we're talking about is I'm asking the City Council to consider adopting a resolution that would fix the established development impact fee for secondary units at $5,834.
What if somebody wanted to put in a secondary unit and go off the meters that service the house? Would we prohibit that?
Well, our code says is that the secondary unit has to have a separate electrical and a separate water meter. They can sewer their things, so they have to have separate water, gas, and electric. But the sewer line can be a combination, and it doesn't have to have a separate lateral.
Because we already have the water meter.
Yeah,
That
right.
would count.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So every, the Creek Bridge subdivision has 4 secondary units there, and they're all individually metered and with water and sewer and gas.
Okay.
The sewers are combination of one sewer lateral that is wide off that'll handle it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. What's the definition of a secondary unit? And where is it allowed or not allowed?
The state law passed the, what they call the Granny Flat ordinance years ago. And basically they said that this is to encourage affordable housing for senior citizens and elderly people. But as it changed and everything, they said that you could rent it to other people other than your immediate family. But however, they changed the law that says that a city cannot deny a secondary unit if it meets all of the requirements that city has established, and you can come up with parameters of the design. In this city, we established it at 600 square feet. And it has
maximum,
to be
minimum?
Maximum. There's other jurisdictions that have said 800, 900. The county has a 1,200 square foot, say. You know,
That's bigger than
but that's immaterial. But in the county, they say that secondary unit can't be more than 150 feet from the primary resident because you got big 5-acre lots.
Yeah.
In the city of San Juan, it's immaterial because most lots are 4, 5, or 6,000 square feet, and the distance is not that. So we don't have a distance parameter, but we have a square footage parameter, and then we also have the individual meter parameter to where it has to be a water, gas, and electric separate from the primary.
Plus, we have a fence perimeter too, right?
Yeah.
It has to be so far from the fence.
Yeah, and the setbacks have to conform.
Total
to the-
coverage requirements aren't affected by this. I mean, if the house is a certain size, you can't add the 600 because it would exceed the total coverage. lot
Exactly.
coverage. All those
You had a
regulations still
lot, and if
exist.
that house consumed 40%, and he wanted to put a secondary unit,
Wouldn't be
sorry,
allowed.
you don't qualify.
And I'm just throwing stuff out. Now, why do we require all the separate metering?
Only
Is that the
because
state requirement or a city requirement?
it's a city requirement.
Okay.
Only because now it's not for your mother and father, an elderly thing. It could be a renter, and that renter then would have their separate water meter.
Yeah, and the alternative would be that all the utilities would be included in the rent.
Exactly. And
Okay.
and as the rental, then it would create subletting it and saying, oh, well, okay, I have to divide my electrical to you, and it's like an apartment. Apartments, they individually meter there because they don't put a master meter because they don't want to get in and arbitrate. Oh, you're using more electricity than I do, and I should pay more than this.
I went through that before.
So it's one of those things that we've developed that criteria to eliminate the possibility of that happening. And I think Tony has one. He has a duplex.
I wish that rule had been in place when I built my duplex.
Yeah.
It's just a little plumbing, Tony.
I thought I'd save a lot of money, but, right.
More hassle.
Brother, I have one question. The 5834, does that include the $810?
No, that I'm saying is the impact fee of $58.34, and the building permit will be $1,075.
Okay.
And that's been reduced because you figured out the average.
The hours and the plan checking and what, yeah, right.
Now, are you going to have a cap on that in case it goes over?
Well, I haven't seen too many of them that have gone over, in terms of the stuff. I'm not going to say is that somebody could build a 600 square foot and put granite and tile and his cost is going to be $200 a square foot but normally $130 a square foot is a nice home. But somebody might want to put gold leaf on their toilet paper hanger, and drive the cost up.
Who told?
Is that not common?
Maybe.
But that doesn't affect our building permit analysis,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
The development impact fees in your model, your typical 2,000 square foot house, are these fees variable, or are they, which of these are variable and which of them are static amounts?
All of them are fixed.
They're
Okay,
all fixed?
All fixed, yeah, right, yeah. And that was based on an analysis that we've done in terms of our capital improvement project and what we needed to generate for future expansions of water, sewer, fire engines, stuff like that.
So
Now, what we're going to do is about every 4 years, and we did it in 2012 or 2013, and Rudy and I are analyzing that, and we're going to bring it back, and they'll probably elevate and come up with consumer price adjustments and stuff like that, where we'll have to increase those.
Yeah, the reason I ask is for instance, we live in an 887 square foot house, and then I think of the really large house that they built up on First Street, that there's no proportionality. It's the same fee.
Same fee.
And some of them probably should be, because the reality is there's not that much, there's not a variation in the impact necessarily on the sewer connection. That the intent is to pay for infrastructure.
Yeah.
Or maybe it should be, I'm not sure, but I wonder if that seems to me they should be varied.
Yeah.
It's like the parking, there was a conversation during the strategic plan committee meeting about parking requirements, and basically anything that gets built requires no more than 2 spaces, and that to me is completely out of date.
Yeah,
completely
right. And that's what we're looking at now and trying to balance that off.
Well, I wonder if this is not another example where we should, if you're going to build a 4,000 square foot house, I think the fees should be, because presumably you're going to have that many more people, and they're going to have that much more of an impact on the roads, on the sewer system.
You're right,
on those
yeah.
things.
It was easy to identify the secondary unit because it's 600.
Right. No, this makes sense to me.
And of all the secondary units that I've designed, 600 allows you 1 bedroom, a bathroom, and a little kitchen living room, and that's it. And you don't have too much area.
No.
But if in the county, you have 1,200, most of them are 2-bedroom units with a bath and a half and a kitchen and everything.
Yeah.
So,
what's mine's 260, something like that.
Yeah.
The cottage in our backyard.
Yeah.
Just from a sense of scale,
Yeah.
it's like. Okay. This makes a lot of sense to me. My comment would be that I'd like to see it go the other direction too, where it becomes more of a graduated scale.
And we've recognized that, and we're working on it. Yeah.
That's another question. But this all looks good to me.
So, Roger, also, would these homes be reevaluated for property tax through the assessor, or?
Oh, yes. When you build a new house and we issue the building permit, it affects the ad valorem tax rate of that house.
And they'll be aware of that.
And so if he's a Prop 13 and he's fixed on his taxes, property taxes, and they only go up 2% per year, the new thing will be evaluated on the construction cost, and that would be added to it. It won't affect his Prop 13, but it'll be added to it, and it will be over and above that.
I can tell you from experience, that's the way it works. I added a room, my taxes went up. I added a patio, my taxes went up. I added a shop, and my taxes went up. So the county assessor, I believe, has an airplane that flies over something. I don't know how that.
A drone.
But no, they see the building permits is what it is.
No, but every 3 years, they fly the county particularly in South County and, out in they fly it and they look for expansions and new constructions all the time.
Okay.
You're going to have a public
Any
hearing?
comment cards on this? Speaker cards? No, okay. Open the public hearing. Anybody want to speak on this? Close the public hearing. Okay, this is a resolution to adopt the regulation, or the recommendation, and actually change the development impact fee for a secondary unit.
So we have two, one to rescind and then one to send? I'm sorry, that was on the other. No, this one's for this part here.
It's one with all the yellow on the bottom.
Yeah.
You should have gotten just yellow paper.
And then use some white out.
Well, when we print the thing up, we just blank that out and then you take it off the computer. But basically what Deborah was saying is that we wanted a whereas in there that qualifies that this is not going to affect the Environmental Quality Act and CEQA regulations.
Okay. I move to pass a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista amending development impact fees pursuant to Chapter 3-8 of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code.
Number? Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
What is the number?
Councilmember West. Councilmember Bach.
Yes.
Councilmember Lund.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Margarita.
Aye.
Mayor Edge.
Yes.
The four members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 4-0-1.
And that's
What is the number?
Resolution 216-41?
Yes, 41.
41, okay. All right, we'll move to 6A, consider resolution accepting a contract for private security patrol.
I will kind of defer this to two of the councilmen that have spent some time interviewing and going to facilities. Both Martirano and Tony Bach have toured the facility, and their input is valuable because they're there. I've talked with both of them on the phone on several occasions.
Is there a reason why we went with 10 to 6 as opposed to talking about 7?
And we talked about that's a variable in the terms of, and if I can just go one step further, is in the resolution, it's something is that when you zero in on the service that you want from one vendor or the next, we've said is in section 2 is be it further resolved that the city council to authorize the city manager to negotiate the terms of the security contracts with it pending your input, and then we will bring that back at the following month with the conditions of approval and the negotiations of that, so that then when you approve it, you'll have the contract documents with you. And of course, both your inputs are valuable because I know I've talked to them and you've seen their facilities. Well, that's the important thing.
Yeah. Well, I have a variety of questions and issues. There's both of these contracts, for different reasons, raise a lot of questions in my mind. We did get some feedback from Parsac regarding one of the contracts, but nobody, that's our liability insurance carrier, I guess, the city's insurance carrier.
Yeah, they didn't.
And then, but no commentary, but clearly the same comments apply because there's even less information in the second contract.
He looked at them both, and he wanted both of them to be changed, no matter which one you did the language for Parsec.
Ken is going to provide us with his, we'll be numbers, and we'll be submitting that to him so that he'll come back with his recommendation.
Oh, that's the Parsec?
Yeah, that Ken Osh, yeah.
Ken, I'm sorry, got it. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get your input on, I mean, one of the contracts looks like a real contract, one of them looks like a pretty basic service agreement.
Service agreement,
Doesn't look to me like it really meets all the, what are there, 7 requirements for a contract, something like that?
We can put it on the city form. I think that's kind of my plan, once you approve it, is that we put it into our standard format and has a standard indemnity, insurance, language, et cetera.
Okay, so, so what are we approving before we do that? Why wouldn't we just do that?
I think you need to select tonight between the 2 providers, and then we can negotiate the contract from there and make sure that they can comply with the demands of PARSAC. And if they can't, then we'll come back at the next meeting with a different provider. So, we may even start the negotiations with the second provider if the first provider doesn't work.
Okay.
So it's who you feel comfortable with.
I had a conversation with JT from Level 1 this afternoon. Rick and I spoke briefly about this last night and felt that we both, I think, thought that this should be tabled for discussion later. And I told JT that, and so he was not able to, he did not attend tonight because based on what I told him. And I feel a little uncomfortable making that sort of, without having either of the parties available to answer any questions or concerns that the other council members might have. So I don't know, Rick, how you feel about that.
Well,
I've been pushing this so hard that I hate to delay it, but I'm not sure what the option is.
And I know I've talked to JT, and he feels that he doesn't have to want to come in front of the 2 people and then be presenting back and forth, and it's...
He has concerns about confidentiality and information, that proprietary information, which I get. In my line of work, I have some of the same issues. But I don't know.
My initial thought, we talked about, was that we didn't have enough information to make an agreement, but it's right here in the PARSAC email that they would be willing to work with us, basically coming up with a model ordinance that would fit their needs and therefore our needs. And so if that's the case, then I feel more comfortable making a decision. But if you'd rather have both parties here, then I'm in no rush,
Yeah, I feel badly that I told him that he didn't need to be here. I called specifically to ask about that. He had been planning to be here, but I don't know. So I feel a little uncomfortable there, but I don't want to hold up the whole proceedings over that.
My feeling is, as much as we need this, we need to do it right. So
well, do you want to discuss then the 2 companies and merits? And
I would like to do that.
Okay, then I think we should proceed with that and then see where the conversation takes us.
I'll go last.
Actually, I'd like to hear you first. Honestly, you have the background.
Well, I've probably mentioned it, a few times in the past, but I work for Menlo College, and we contract with security agencies to provide 24/7 guard service on the campus. And when I went to work there in 2009, they were contracting with Allied Barton, who just recently merged with Universal Protection Service, and they're now Allied Universal, I think they call themselves. Allied Universal. And they're now I believe, the largest company in the U.S. and the second largest in the world. We went from Allied Barton to U.S. Security Associates, which is another fairly big company. These are not local companies that we were dealing with. They were terrible for many reasons. Then we went to Universal Protection Service, and all during this time I had input into the process, but I didn't make decisions. I wasn't able to. So after a year and a half or 2 years, we dropped Universal Protection Service and went with First Alarm, First Security. And they're a pretty big company. They started out in Santa Cruz County. I think they basically started as an alarm company. Then they branched out into physical security, and they basically have the two divisions. They're kind of sort of splitting into two companies, but they haven't yet. They're still one, as far as I know. And we had them for a year and a half or 2 years, probably about a year and a half, and they made many mistakes. And basically what the problem was is that the manager that they hired, the first one left or got sick. I think she got sick. Then they hired another one. Then there were problems. Then they hired a third one. And he was a smooth talker, and he basically totally screwed up. And I won't go into details. But so we left them, and we're back with Universal Protection Service. And we still have problems, but not to the extent that we've had with the other companies. But I think the weakness that First Alarm has is they don't always put the right people in management positions. And at the time that and John Hopper is very close to that organization. He used to work for him. And so he kind of led us into that path. Well, they have an office down in Salinas, which is basically handling this application, even though they brought in the president and some other people. I had heard that the gal who ran the Salinas office was a very good manager. Now I find out that fairly recently they put somebody in the Salinas office over her, so she's no longer in charge. That kind of bothers me. And they can be a very good organization. They look to be very sound financially. They have nice offices. I've been to their offices in San Jose. You guys have too. But I think where the weakness is that they don't pick the right people. Probably they don't vet them properly. And I think that's a serious problem, because the person who manages the account is who we're going to be dealing with. We're not going to be dealing with the individual guards, the individual officers. We shouldn't be. We should not be. You hire a security company, you hire the company. They hire the guards. The guards are their responsibility. And if you have issues with officers, then you go to the company and you let them work it out. That's internal. If you supervise the officers, then it's like going back to having our own police department, and we know what happened there. So the people from level 1, they've just barely started out, but they appear to be very serious about what they're doing. They appear to be pretty well organized. They're local. They probably would try a little bit harder, I think, because they are getting off the ground. For First Alarm, we'd just be another account, another number. And like I say, I think there's a weakness there in management choice.
Okay.
So I would prefer to go with level 1 between the two. I wish Presidential was still in Hollister, because they were primo. But I have a feeling that it cost a lot of money to do what they did, and that's why the family pulled the money. So they sold, and I think they sold once to a guy who used to work for Seaside PD, and then he kept it for a couple of years, and then I think he sold it to First Alarm.
First Alarm.
I can't remember his name, but I think he used to work for Seaside, and then he was working for East Palo Alto, and he also cut hair on the side, so I don't know where he is now. There's a connection there, I think, two related businesses.
Robert, did you?
Yeah, I was impressed with level 1. people I talked to, other services and stuff, that they were more than happy. And I think having a company like that is really trying to put a name out for themselves. I think you'll get that level of service. I think you'll be up there for it.
Well, Chris and I went up to First Alarm's offices in San Jose.
Headquarters, yeah.
To their headquarters, yeah. Very nice, big screen TVs and everything, but very honestly, when I walked out of there, I was a little bit uncomfortable with them. I went out to True Leaf, where Level 1 is doing their security out there, and I talked to the True Leaf manager, God, I can't think of his name. Anyhow, he was very happy with Level 1. He says, anything I throw at JT, he manages to bring about. They now have 3. He started out with 1 guard there on the gate, then they determined they needed 2 gates, so they had 2 guards, and now they have 3 people there, 1 kind of a roving guard. He's very happy with their service. Then I went and talked to Tony LaMonica at the Sheriff's Department. I wanted to find out if either one of them, if the sheriff had any problems with them. And Tony told me the other day that as Level 1, no problems at all. He called me this afternoon because First Alarm does Ridgemark.
Right.
And he said, according to their records, they haven't had any problems with them out there. I did sit down with JT, and guy's got to get a new nickname, Floppy.
Floppy? Yeah.
He's
Tyler is his name.
Yeah. I don't know how he ended up with that name. But anyhow, he lives here, right here in town. And so we were sitting there, and I asked him, I said, are you going to be a dedicated security officer for San Juan Bautista? And he just looked at JT and he says, I hope so. He says, number one, I'm here all the time, which is, it's kind of nice, you know. And overall, and then this goes way back. I used to work at Teledyne, which is now Pacific Scientific, and I think JT was about 17 years old when he was a security guard out there, and I think his father, I believe, was there. So they've been here in San Benito County all their lives, and I really felt very comfortable with them. So if it was up to me, I would recommend Level 1. Basically,
well, it is
also,
up to you.
Well, and you know, there's no real difference in the pricing that amounts to anything. And maybe it's just me. I like seeing guys, small companies starting out. I think he's got 35 employees or something like that. And
that's not a small.
Well,
I'd be surprised.
In this business here, it's like Rick was saying. I mean, this First Alarm is huge, and I'll tell you why I didn't feel real comfortable with them. I felt like, hey, Sand Pond, you know, they got a problem. You know, whereas Level 1 is
San Juan.
a real big deal for them. You know.
Well, in First Alarm's defense, I would have to say that Cal comes down here every once in a while and goes to Daisy's with John Hopper, and so he would have an interest.
That's a recommendation.
He would have an interest in the town because it's not just another small town that they have a contract with.
Okay.
He likes it down here.
I think we're all kind of level one there, huh?
Well,
Are we, or are you?
But we have to iron this contract out and make sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and that's Deborah's job. And
Parsec will help.
yeah, and yeah, it's got to be approved by Parsec.
I'd like to, I think that empowering you to go back and go through that process, but I'd like for us to we still have to approve the contract, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because it's a contract.
Yeah.
Okay. So as Tony said, Tony and I drove up to San Jose to go to the offices at First Alarm. We also met with JT and Tyler, and I've met with them a couple of times. I also went out to Hollister and met the Salinas office, the shift captain or supervisor, I'm not sure what his title is. He oversees, they do have a small office in Hollister, but it's pretty minimal. It appeared to me to be a place where they can check in and hand off equipment and so forth. Minimally staffed, not with security officers, but staff. Their capabilities are much higher tech in terms of monitoring, I think you would say. So they're using technology called RFID tags, and an RFID tag can be approximately the size of a postage stamp. And when you have a reader, an RFID tag reader, and it comes in within range of the RFID, it sends radio waves that activate it and identifies it. So part of their patrol process is that they would put these RFID tags all over the city. And their patrol officer has basically a reader attached to or integral to their cell phone or a cell phone. And they would then patrol around and they would check in at these different locations. So you get a very high level of specificity in terms of where they are and at what times, because it's all time stamped and so forth. Along with the RFID tag, the identification, location, timestamp, there's instructions. So if we had them come to this building, we could tell them to check the doors, check the windows, whatever, and it could be different at different times. So but part of my fear, the thing that was speaking to me in the back of my head is, does this mean they're hiring the lowest common denominator because they have to give them this level of instruction? But I think that's probably all of our fears with either company. So anyway, it occurred to me that we could get inundated with data. I mean, I'm not sure there's anybody that really wants to go through all that data on a daily basis and look at what's going on. Although it would give us some if there was something to happen, we'd then have a record of what was the guy doing? Is he sleeping up at the cemetery? Well, we know he's not because he's checking in at these different physical locations. Level 1 doesn't have that level of technology. They've talked in sort of round terms about GPS tracking, that sort of thing, but I didn't see. They didn't show us examples. I'm not sure if it's something they're currently doing or if it's something they want to do and can do. So that was a little unclear to me. The First Alarm also has specific dispatch centers. So they have a dispatch center in a 24-hour manned dispatch center in San Jose and a second center in Santa Cruz. They don't run dispatch out of Salinas. That's a significant office for them, but the dispatch runs out of, I think they would run here out of Santa Cruz. So that brings to mind some questions. Are people going to be calling? Who are residents going to call if there's a problem? Are we, and I don't know if we've really given that much thought. Do we put out a phone number for a security company as an alternative to calling 911, or do we in fact rely on 911? And Deborah's nodding, we rely on 911. And in my mind, that was where my head was at. So that, the question is.
There's a safety issue right there.
Exactly.
And there's a time element too. If you call the security guy and put him in danger, it may not have enough time to where we could have had resources come out at the beginning.
Sure.
911 call, and then maybe a secondary. Be aware police is coming in, this is the situation that's going on.
Yeah.
At this address and location, because, we're pretty much hiring, ears and eyes.
Well, exactly. That was how I had an email communication with Sheriff Thompson, and that's what he said. He said, I understand why you guys are doing this. We understand the constraints, but understand that it is a deterrence. It's eyes and ears for reporting. It's not, you're not sending people in to go break up issues. They're reporting it. We're responding. And I totally agree. That is what we want, and that's what we should be looking for. And so, but there are concerns, I think, also about safety for the security officers is potentially less danger for them if they have a 24-hour manned dispatch center. Level 1 handles it in a different way. They have shift supervisors on 24/7, and the shift supervisors are carrying the radios, and that's where the communication comes in. So it's and he did a demonstration. I think you were there, Tony, when they came to the meeting. They had the radio on the table, and they said, "Well, here's how it works." And he put out the call, the urgent reporting call, and immediately got the callbacks from all the guys in the field. And but it's not as structured. It's not as sophisticated, and so I have questions about that. Those I wonder about. But the other thought thing that occurred to me is if we're talking about a 30-day termination. So if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, if we're dissatisfied with either company for whatever reason, it's not like we're not stuck with some of the other contracts that we contemplate that have very long terminations. This is a very short duration. So I have mixed feelings, frankly, about the decision, and it's not clear. My gut tells me that we should start with level 1. My head tells me first alarm. If I look at it statistically, they are a better choice because they have better capabilities statistically. But then I've also been observing them when I go travel, and I'm at Santa Cruz, and you look at who it is and how they're interacting, and it's a mixed bag. It's not, to your point, Rick, I don't see that consistency. So I don't know. I would defer, I think, the majority here is to go with level 1, and I'm comfortable with that.
Well, there was one other thing that, when I was talking to JT, he's going to have to work it out with the sheriff, but he wants to have radios capable of directly communicating with the sheriff.
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know.
Like I said, I said, you talk to Darren.
Yeah.
That's not our...
I will say that Darren did not express any, he said he really wasn't familiar with either company and didn't make any, didn't have any feedback about either company when he communicated with me earlier today. So.
Well, yeah, the only thing that, I didn't talk to Darren, I talked to Tony LaMonica.
Sure.
And I told Tony, I said, in a sense, we're taking some pressure off of you.
Yeah.
That we're not going to be basically complaining all the time that we never see the sheriff,
You told him what?
That's all I hear is, and somebody's complaining to me about, okay, the sheriff's not here, and then he drives right by I said, well, that kind of looks like a sheriff truck. But I agree, I I don't go out roaming around at night, so I'm not really sure, how much coverage we're getting from the sheriff. This way, either one, and again, I'll reiterate, I'd like to go with level 1 to start with, but
30 days isn't, I don't think it's...
Well,
Not a big liability.
It's, and when I talk to level 1, the last thing we want is an armed guard. We do not want an armed guard.
Yeah.
I mean, if the guy sees something going on, back out, call 911, call the sheriff if they've got the radios in their cars or whatever. I don't want these guys getting hurt.
It's nice to have a credible witness.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think when I first met both of them, I told them, I says that we were asked for the eyes and ears, and that was to the extent. And then additionally, I just says, and then I would request that if you see a parking violation, I'll give you a book that you can issue that.
Yeah. That's going to be one of the good things. I mean, that they can go around and see something that's been sitting there for 4 or 5 days and put a tag on it. It's not supposed to be there, but that's just. But I would like, I guess, to direct staff to get us an ironclad, presuming that we're going to use level 1. And clean up this contract or make it ironclad, is that what you call it?
There you go.
And also that Parsac, I mean, if Parsac doesn't accept either one unless, hey,
we're done. Yeah.
We're done.
That's the direction of the city council. We'll, Deborah and I will go and get a hold of them and we'll start, the process of developing the contract and then bring it back to you.
This is an action item. Do we need a public hearing? I didn't call for, did we have speaker cards on this? No. I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody want to comment on this? No? Okay. All right. So, do we take a formal vote then? Or consent?
There is a resolution in the binder.
Yeah. That one in a revised, but,
there it is.
But can we really do that?
It doesn't say which one.
Without a contract?
Yeah, that's what the revision was authorizing the city manager to negotiate the contract.
Did we get a revision on this one too?
Yeah, those stacks, the ones you got.
Again, Deborah with her yellow. So I would propose.
This one has the section 2 that.
Oh, yeah.
Is a public hearing closed?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry.
So can I go ahead and propose
Yes.
resolution number 2016-42?
Yes.
Resolution of the City Council to the City of San Juan Bautista approving an agreement between the city and level 1
Security services.
For security services. Yeah, level 1 private security incorporated.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been.
Councilmember West is absent. Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Lund?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Aye.
Mayor Edge?
Yes.
The four members of the council being present for the motion are stated by the capacity unanimously.
Roger, if I'm reading this right, we have a special event every night. It's $3 cheaper an hour.
Yeah, that was good, huh?
But the promoter gets to pay that. Is that correct?
Well, we can just say it's a special event.
Huh?
We can just say it's a special event.
Yeah, right, Robert.
Okay, moving on. Consider resolution adopting an interfund repayment program for repayment of enterprise funds of the sewer and water accounts to the general fund. I think we know what's going on with this. Do we need to have a staff report?
Yeah, and as a follow-up, I tried to clean up everything there. We really zeroed in on the Plan A option at 1.5%, and I identified it. I asked Wendy, I says, how do she would like to receive the money, on a monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual? And she felt that it should be at the end of the fiscal year, where after we balance everything off and then we see the revenues, then it could be one lump sum payment.
Is the enterprise fund paying an interest on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
1.5%. Now, if they pay it annually, they're going to be paying more interest.
I think it's a simple calc. It's not like a compounding interest. It was a simple interest calculation. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
I mean, by paying monies earlier to that physical year would be less.
Yeah, it would gradually go down, But the 1.5% in terms of principal plus interest is fixed at 81,000,
Right.
And then we just divide that into 29 equal payments.
Okay.
If we charge a higher interest rate, we actually generate more money for ourselves, right?
Yes, but then...
I thought we were looking at 2%. What's the norm for this kind of thing?
Well, it's all over the board. The IRS says is that, you have to have a fair and reasonable rate, and it could be from 2% all the way down to 0.34 is the minimum for nonprofits and stuff like that. I felt that 1.5 was reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that.
Wish I could get that rate.
And if we charge too much interest, it hurts the enterprise funds. For trying to accomplish some of the improvements that we need too.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too high. I just was wondering if we were high enough, so that's fine. Okay.
And in the Exhibit A is where I said that is how the funds are repaid based on 55% of the water, 45% out of the sewer, and that will be divided and balanced off of the $81,104.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Any speaker cards on this issue? We haven't had any speaker cards all night on anything.
No kidding.
Okay. Anybody want to comment on this? No? Okay. All right, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion. We have a resolution.
I move to pass a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista adopting an inter-fund repayment program for payment of enterprise funds of the sewer and water accounts to the general fund account.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
West is absent. Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Lund?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Margarina?
Aye.
Mayor Edge?
Yes.
The 4 members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 4-0.
And that's 43?
Yes.
Okay, 7A, Orchard Garden collaboration with the State Historic Park. We have a map. And who's reporting on this? Roger?
I think I am.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris has been active in that, yeah.
Okay.
Well, so we met with the gentleman from the State Park Department, and I reported on that previously. He then went on vacation. He has sent me a draft, an MOU, a memo of understanding, that is in place, I believe, between the City of Monterey and the state parks. And it is not specific to any particular site like this. It's a guiding document that talks about the relationship between the two entities. And he felt that was the way that's where we should begin. And then from that defines how we interact, and then we start working on more specific projects and issues. That is, unfortunately, he gave me the document as a PDF, meaning there's no way to alter it without just simply typing it out.
Yeah.
And it's taking me a little time. Last week was my busiest week at work of the year, so. I have not made progress on the MOU.
In that MOU, can it identify specifically the orchard lot that we're talking about and not the whole park in San Juan Bautista?
It really isn't, it's not intended to be that specific. So the MOU is sort of, we want to work with you and you want to work with us, and here's who's going to be responsible for communicating, here's how we're going to communicate. It's very broad, it's the top level, talking about how we're going to communicate and how we're going to agree to stuff.
There's nothing wrong with you taking that and downloading it and having the input, and let's get a little bit more.
Agreed. I'm thinking there's an exhibit that talks about the more specific, Schedule A.
It's a good starting point.
Yeah.
So excellent.
I just haven't been able to get it typed up, and then to you, I want to get it. I need to get it into the computer to create a soft copy for us to do anything with it. At this point, it's specific to the city of Monterey, so we'll have to put our.
There is a software that'll take PDs and then read it and go back into Word.
So that's all I have on that.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
To hear back then?
Pardon me?
And we're just waiting to hear back then?
Well, we've got to make some progress on that document, and then I'll pass it off.
And
for Roger to.
And it's very similar to, and more specific for the next item is a joint use agreement with San Juan school facilities, and this is getting into the recital, but then it gets into the terms and then the specific stuff we want to look at.
Now he's one that can make that decision, or is he our stepping stone to the people that can make that decision?
I don't know. His position is interim, but he's he's at a relatively high level, and he was very open and very receptive. He talked about plans that he has for the park. It was very exciting. I came away from that meeting feeling very positive about the whole thing. So I felt good about it.
Because I've had these kind of meetings and negotiations and stuff, and then come back to the point where you can't make that decision, or?
It clearly has to get vetted and go up the food chain through their whatever legal department. But
of all of our contacts over the years, this is the highest we've got, and I think this is a good start because at least he's in a position where he could go in and talk to Lear and the heads up in Sacramento.
And he was proposing this as the next step, so it was not, that felt like a very good first step.
Okay, discussion only. Is there any public comment on this? You guys keep your card for the next one, okay. All right, let's go to 7B, joint use agreement with school district to allow after-hours access to school. Is this only a discussion item, or are we going to be voting on this?
Just a discussion, This was a draft from a school district up in San Mateo County that they gave it, and they kind of changed some words around and everything, and it's a draft in terms of the thing. They've talked about the fence around the area that blocks more of the ball fields and the basketball courts, and they are looking at different gates arrangements, some turnkey roundabout gates and stuff like that. Nothing is decided. The price of one gate was $5,700, and then he threw it out. He just says, are we going to split that cost from the city to the school district in order to install it?
I'll build it.
I says, well, that's something that we'll discuss. I says, I think we should look at this and look at the framework of the thing, and then maybe look at different alternates of getting in there. And I have some ideas about how to get pedestrians in there without getting bicycles or bigger equipment in there, and to achieve it, and it would be much cheaper. So, and Bill was receptive to that. So I think it's a work in progress, and I think now is the thing is we got to explore some different alternates of gates and access to it, and then sit down with them and crank through some of the terms.
It
And we
looks
met
like-
the interim superintendent out there, Michelle, and she's very knowledgeable, and she's very cooperative, and she'd like to see something like this.
That's good. It looked to me like the agreement was basically dealing with the soccer field, and I thought we were looking at like the basketball courts also.
Yeah, exactly. The way you read it, it was really, it looked like the soccer field, and I says, no, it's got to be more than that, and it's got to be the basketball and the tennis court and the ball field on both sides of the creek.
Yeah, my reading of it was very open-ended. I mean, they're talking about buildings as well in this document, which is really not what we're necessarily looking for.
That's where the modification is.
But then again, if those are amenable, that might be something we should consider.
Yeah, and we sent the thing up to Ken Hodge, and he looked at it, and he says it's really how we want to frame our responsibility of what we're after. Yeah. I know I sat on the school board with Hollister, and we did the Rancho Vista School there, and ball fields and soccer, and it's a relationship between the city and the school on their facilities and how they're going to pay for the lights and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. I think we have a speaker card on this. John, was this what you wanted to?
Yeah, I didn't want you to go the whole evening without a speaker, so.
Thanks.
I attended the school board meeting late in July, and I believe the facilities director was talking about a Z gate or an S gate where people can walk through, but bigger items such as bicycles and stuff might not fit. I thought I heard only $2,700 or something, but prices change once people investigate things. I know that and stuff such, but I'm here. I promised some people on our subcommittee that I just would here to speak positively for it. We need it. You're talking about contracts with security companies and such, and the overall point of that is to try and control some crime. And there's many ways to control crime. One of the ways is you give your citizens something to do other than doing criminal acts. And so, you can work on it from both ends, inward. And this is a positive step. I'm just urging you all to support it and make it happen. Any support you need from the subcommittee, we have people on the subcommittee who sit on the school board, so we can get direct communication. The school board, the person, I think they're very supportive of it now. So it should be clear sailing once you get the gate situation kind of ironed out.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of push to this, this is a quality of life issue. This is something, where kids can get out and they can exercise, let alone, the adults too.
And I'm with John when he showed me that expensive roundabout turn gate and everything, stainless steel and everything. I says, wait a minute, what about a Z gate and, an offset gate that I'm used to where I went through them many times. And
there's a little thing called ADA, Roger.
Yes.
My guess is that's presenting a problem for them.
But even the Z gate can
you're
handle
right.
an ADA.
You're right. I think I was just going to say I'm reasonably sure as a Rotarian that the Rotary Club can probably fund a significant portion of this, that they would be very willing to participate.
Well, thank you. That's.
I can't speak for them exactly, but my guess is that it will.
Well, this is the kind of stuff they do. They get behind
exactly.
stuff like
this.
This
Is right in their wheelhouse. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else want to comment? No? Okay. All right, so that's just basically a report and work in progress. Okay, so now we go to comments, our favorite part. City council comments. Anybody?
I was just joking about the ADA. I know you know that stuff. You better than all the rest of us, I'm sure.
You better not be joking.
No comments?
No, that's all I have.
Tony?
No, I run off at the mouth enough already.
Good today?
I wanted to give a quick report regarding the candidates that are running, plus the,
What are you going to say about me?
I just wanted to say really quick that the nomination period ended on the 12th, and Trish and I are still discussing, because there is time for write-in candidates, if anybody wanted to run, and then the candidates that are running, the notice is, not the notice, but the list of who is running is posted on the website and on all library here and at the post office if anybody wanted to take a look at that. We also have it here.
Okay, thank you. Roger, any comments? No. Everett? No? Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
And we'll be here all
It's almost time to go to bed. Not my intention.
All in favor?
Go get it.